everything kind of goes down at the end.
So good.
Susie, make me a sandwich.
Do you want to pet the kitty? Yes, I would like to pet the kitty.
I'm all grown up.
Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today is a legendary animator hailing from Seattle, Washington, who created one of the greatest animated series known to man. He's made us laugh, he's made us cry, he's made us feel seen. More importantly, he's still the reason that anytime I meet someone named Ruth, I go, hi Ruth, hi Ruth, hi Ruth. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Craig Bartlett.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
It's a great time to be from Seattle, man.
Right.
Are you a diehard Seahawks
Go
fan?
Seahawks.
Yeah, let's go.
I can remember when they won the last Super Bowl, and remember it was that they just completely washed out. They were, I think
2014?
Yeah, it was like at halftime it was like 50-0 or something.
Yeah. Well, kind of a similar vibe this time around too. Like, I mean, not that big of a blowout as the previous time, but it was sort of a one-sided performance.
So I guess when the Seahawks are on, they're really on.
They're really on. That's the moral of that story.
Yeah.
I want to take it back to your childhood a little bit, because Arnold, you've described as meant to be depicting childhood from a child's perspective, right?
Right. What it feels like to be a kid.
What it feels like to be a kid. So the first thing I want to talk about is growing up. Give me some of your favorite, if you can recall, Halloween experiences.
Oh, Halloween! Halloween in Seattle is special because it's usually when the winter storms have started and the leaves, the trees all turning red and the leaves falling is kind of done because the rain has washed all the leaves into the mud. And so my memory of Halloween is it's kind of too cold and wet to kind of wear your costume, and kids often would have to wear, their parents would send us out
get the
with
jacket
jackets,
on, ruin the costume.
And so that was my Halloween, walking around in, I remember leaves in the mud.
Yeah.
And yet we were deeply into Halloween. We'd go out in a pack with our friends, and kids would be like, I went 10 blocks that away, and there's a house on such and such a street where they're giving away big candy.
Giving out the good candy.
And so you went out with a big sack and you tried to really fill it. We got a lot of candy, and it was very kind of social.
Yeah. Do you recall favorite costumes that you had or put together?
No, I never did good costumes. That's what's funny about being an animator, is that you always, when you tell your story, you can exaggerate like crazy.
Sure.
So we look at Downtown as Fruits. Those costumes are fantastic.
Yeah.
The banana and strawberry costume are like almost everybody's favorite way to depict Arnold and Gerald.
Yes.
So I look at that and I go, I didn't do anything like that when I was a kid. So, we would just put on a mask and hit in our raincoat and hit the road.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's funny. I mean, I feel the vibe similar to it being very cold around Halloween and usually having to throw on another layer or something.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh man, now I look less cool.
Yeah.
The urban legends are a favorite of yours, and obviously, it really comes through in Hey Arnold. It's just such a big part of the universe, and there's so much folklore involved.
Yeah.
Was that for you growing up something that was big among you and your friends? Is that like, are there similar stories that you guys told that you took that inspiration from?
For sure. Like we all were, as kids, we kind of were just living this I was living in North Seattle, fairly suburban. It wasn't like I was living downtown.
Sure.
And so in our kind of normal suburban life, we were always like, I think that weird lady at the store is a Russian spy. And
right.
We would just kind of and the story, Pigeon Man-y kind of stories where there was some hermit that people just barely got to look at. There'd be some weird house in the neighborhood where it didn't look like anybody lived there. And once in a while, somebody would see somebody inside and be like, well, I think one, the place is haunted. Two, that guy's some kind of, we would always, exaggerate and make up reasons for us to believe there was something up.
Yes.
And we were just doing it to entertain ourselves.
Of course.
And so, when you think about Pigeon Man and Stoop Kid and Sewer King and all these characters, they're so much wilder than reality.
Yeah.
And it's just because we're cartoon makers and we can't stop short of trying to deliver something really entertaining.
Of course. No, there's no point doing it low key.
Yeah.
I feel like, we grew up in the 90s. Right before the major boom of the internet, if that's the term.
Right. It's pre-internet, kind of. I mean, it was starting.
But we didn't have, or at least we didn't feel like we had access to information the way that we have now. And so I wonder, and if you're listening out there and you have kids and you want to comment, let us know. I wonder if kids still have those urban legends the way that we did. Because I grew up the same way. You'd make things up and things would spread across the playground and everybody adds a little bit to it and you don't know what's true. But part of the fun of it was there was no way to find out what was true. There was a little bit of magic in your head because you couldn't just Google
You bet.
Is Four-Eyed Jack, or did he ever live here? Did a scientist die here? You know what I mean? There should be a record of it. You'd maybe ask your parents or something, and maybe they'd play along and be like, feed into the magic a little bit.
Yeah.
Or even if they didn't confirm the story, you were like, well, I don't know. Everybody at school says different. Yeah.
And you notice when we ended all of our urban legends, they almost always, it'd be like,
true.
Okay, there is no haunted train. And I wouldn't say that. And you always end with some kind of zinger,
Yes.
like in that case, Brainy sitting on the rail as the train goes by and you're like, oh, he didn't drown in the mud, Brainy seems to be fine. So there's a lot of supernatural stuff going on all the time.
That was one of my favorite aspects of Hey Arnold, because I'm heavy into the spooky stuff, you know? And the fact that every single ghost story turned out to be true. There wasn't one that didn't have that zinger. Right, the headless cabbie is real.
Yeah.
Four-Eyed Jack comes in, he says boo. Wheezin' Ed is real.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Wheezin' Ed's laughing in the last scene. The haunted train, clearly there's a bunch of stuff going on.
Got a whole song,
the Mad Engineer sings his song, and so I felt like the audience wanted to believe, and I also wanted kids to talk about it afterwards.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, when you said that about the schoolyard, in my mind, I didn't have any backup to know that this was true, and we didn't really, in the 90s, kids, we weren't social mediating back and forth and getting reactions and thumbs up or thumbs down. So I just hoped that kids in the schoolyard would talk about the show, sort of like the adult version of a water cooler phenomenon.
100% we did.
That's so great. It really makes me glad to hear that.
Yes, 100% we did. Especially because it was a special experience for my age group particularly. I'm sure, but when the show was coming out was around the time that we were in the 4th grade.
Yeah, that was what it was really made for.
Yeah, so
made for you.
It was like, wow. It was like, you're watching this you can identify.
Yeah.
Especially the fact that I did go to school in New York, so it was the environment was very similar and
New Yorky.
New Yorky. And at that time we were all convinced it was New York.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I think a few later episodes that there were clear indications that they would make reference to where they were in the world. So speaking of that supernatural element that we talked about, you've said that you were pretty heavily influenced by Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Yeah.
When did you get into reading his stories?
It's really funny, especially just in general. I really love to promote reading actual analog books.
Yes.
I feel like they're...
Oh my God, the fact that we have to say analog books.
Yeah, and books that you can hold in your hand and turn those pages. And because I feel like we read all day, but we're reading screens, and it's real. We can all feel our attention spans being kind of shredded.
All of us, yeah.
And so I really make a point to read, sit down and read, and I've always got a couple books going.
Yeah.
And luckily, when I was younger, I had a love of reading. I read The Lord of the Rings. I had a really cool aunt, my Aunt Gert, who the name Gertie Shortman is a nod to my Aunt Gert.
Yes.
But my Aunt Gert gave me Lord of the Rings when I was probably 13, and said, "You're gonna love this."
Yeah.
And so I had people who were turning me on to good stuff. My oldest sister, Deb, probably turned me on to Gabriel Garcia Marquez. And I know the first one I read was 100 Years of Solitude. And then I proceeded to read I'm kind of a completist with him. I've read almost everything he's written.
Did you get more involved into other magic realism like Julio Cortázar and...
people, especially people from South America, have been like, hey, if you like that, you should try this.
Yeah.
But Borges is kind of the only other sort of... I really love him, and I found him later.
I would have to say my favorite magic realism story of all time is El Brujo Postergado, which is the Borges story. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good, so good. I didn't learn that about you till recently, but after I learned it, I was so excited because it was... I got into it in high school because my Spanish teacher exposed us to all of it. And I got so heavily into it that I was a Spanish literature minor in college that I just loved it so much.
So you read all that stuff in its original Spanish.
I did. Yeah, I did.
Which I haven't. I plan to.
Yeah, someday. But when I saw that connection there, I was like, oh, it makes total sense in your storytelling. You could see that inspiration even in the subtle things like, rooms in the boarding house that you didn't know existed, kind of a thing.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And when we made when I made the pilot, the first thing I drew was the boarding house and Grandma and Grandpa on the front step. There's a 1993 drawing that I post once in a while as the first look at the boarding house. But I remember even then going, I'm going to make it like magic realism, where when you go inside, I'm going to make a floor plan so I know where the staircase is and how it takes you to the second floor landing. And then you walk all the way down the hall, and then there's the place where he pulls down the wall, kind of angles out at you, and he pulls down the stairs, and that special space of his room is going to be like at the end of a journey through this house. But even though you think you know where everything is, there's a fishing room. Where the fuck is the fishing room?
Right.
And it's like, I don't know. Where's that Zen garden room where he meditates with Grandma? And that's completely because I'd read 100 Years of Solitude.
Yeah.
And also I have to plug an American author. His name's John Crowley, who's still alive. You've read Crowley?
I have.
Oh my God. Little Big is, I feel like it's his 100 Years of Solitude.
Totally.
Same idea. A century and plus goes by.
Yeah.
You see several generations of one family. There's all kinds of magic going on. And that house, the house that the great-grandfather or whatever had built, is another magic house.
Totally.
You turn a corner and you're in a new place. And it's because it's sort of like he wanted to build a house that would, and it's so great. He couldn't see the fairies that his wife could see. He could never, ever, and all the males in the family could never see the fairy kingdom. But he tried to build a house that couldn't, I'm going to try to make a space where you could, the fairies might, you might be able to walk through a door and be in another world.
Yeah.
And it's really moving because he's not even able to see the magic. But that was as much of an influence on Hey Arnold as
that is so cool to hear, man. In the Four-Eyed Jacks episode, when they discover that the entire time there's been that secret bathroom that Grandpa's
it's a one bathroom boarding house and he's got his own bathroom. They're supposed to be plenty mad.
Yeah, exactly. After that episode, do the other renters at the boarding house go to use Grandpa's bathroom and he's
probably
upset about
they
it?
try and Grandpa ejects them angrily.
Good.
Yeah, it's really Grandpa's space.
Okay, Grandpa deserves that space.
Yeah. He does a lot.
I know that you became heavily interested in animation when you studied abroad in Italy. What specifically about being there, or what did you experience there, or what did you study there that actually, flipped that switch in your head that said, instead of being a fine arts painter, I want to do movement?
It's like Italy kind of broke it for me in a good way, in the best way.
Yeah.
Like I was that was my third year of art school, and I was a traditional fine art student. I was studying, the basics of sculpture and painting and drawing, and I took all these great courses. I loved it. It was really inspiring. But I knew somehow deep down that the world of fine art, that would have been the late 70s, the world of fine art was really serious, deeply serious. It was like kind of different kinds of abstraction that it didn't appeal to me at all.
Sure.
And I wanted to do really pure storytelling. That's what I didn't know it then, but that's the kind of art I wanted to make. I wanted to tell a story. And of course that takes you to comics and animation, but I didn't even know it yet. And I went to Italy and I saw, it really was a mind blower. A little 20-year-old me turned 21 in Siena. And they took us to, the part of that program was every weekend a bus would take all the students in the program, which was 20-some kids. They'd take us to another Italian city. And all that week we'd talk about, okay, in Venice, this is where Tiziano was, and we're going to go to. I'm going to take you to a church in Venice, and we're going to look at Tiziano's Ascension of the Virgin, which is so literal and so storytelling-y. All these great Renaissance paintings and all the Italian art is incredible. And the Italian architecture, I can't say enough about how the architecture of Italy blew my little mind. I was like, well, the world obviously is way more interesting than I thought. And I may never be able to go back to the Northwest again. I'll go back, but I'm going to suffer.
Yeah.
I'm not in this. And seeing that art with all of its great, kind of literal narrative storytelling going on made me realize that was the kind of art that I was more interested in. Then I returned home, literally broken. I didn't know what to do. I spent a year with really bad culture shock being back in, rural Washington State. And I was like, well, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going somewhere else from here. And I went to the Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington, and started doing animation just for that reason. And I have to also say, while I was going to school in Portland, they had the school was in the art museum, and there was a theater there, and students could go to movies for free. So I went to see free movies every night. Amazing. What a perk. I had no money.
Yeah.
So my free entertainment was to go see really cool foreign films and just everything weird. And the Tournée of Animation was an annual thing that I don't know who put that on even, but they would collect shorts from all around the world and into a feature-length, like 90-minute show.
Yeah.
And the Tournée would come to the art museum, and I would watch them, and I would see these animated shorts, including Will Vinton, who I went to work for.
Yeah.
Will Vinton's first film, his Oscar-winning short called
Wow.
Closed Mondays, and again, another mind blower.
Yeah.
So, I went to Italy, and that blew my mind, but I was already, ripe for something new.
The wheels were turning.
And I was seeing animation and going, look, it tells a story. It's funny.
Yeah.
Almost always. It's got experimental soundtracks, which I loved. Really cool. They'd kind of make their own music, or they'd have some cool, weird experimental soundtrack. And it was art. It was art that had the illusion of life and movement. And I was like, this is way cooler than what I'm studying.
Totally.
I gotta go this way. And it took me then doing that third year in Italy and just kind of like breaking. When I came back, I was like, I'm not gonna keep doing fine art.
You found your calling.
Yeah. So then at Evergreen, I made my first shorts.
You ended up going to work for the guy that invented claymation,
Yeah.
which is incredible.
In Portland.
You moved to LA because you get the job with Pee Wee animating the penny shorts and stuff. But at what point during those early stages of your career did you have the goal of, I would like to run my own cartoon one day, create my own animated universe? Or was that something in your head?
It was. It's a great question. It was right when I worked for Pee Wee in 87 was the first year. We did season 2
Yeah.
penny cartoons because season 1 was in New York.
Yeah, wow.
At Broadcast Arts, which was somewhere downtown.
Okay.
In a warehouse downtown. And Paul Rubens, Pee Wee, had a falling out with those people. And he's like, fine, I'm taking the whole show back to LA where he was from. And he's from Florida originally, but LA was his world.
Sure,
he'd been a groundling, and he'd been, all his friends were showbiz friends from LA.
Yeah.
And he came back to LA and set up a new studio, which they was in rented space in the, what was that, Hollywood Production Center or something like that. It was a studio kind of by Raleigh, just off of Sunset, kind of tucked into the Hollywood Flats, and that's where they built the Playhouse set. And when I came, I was only picking it up on second season, but it was the reason I got the job on Pee Wee was I'd seen Pee Wee's Playhouse season 1, and another mind blower, another one where I went like, I have to go to there. I have to go where this is. I don't know how, but I've got to meet these people. And I had some luck. Matt Groening, my then brother-in-law, was very good friends with Gary Panter, a terrific artist who's the art director of the Playhouse. And the all that early Pee Wee stuff, the kind of punk rock Pee Wee stuff, that's all Gary Panter. Gary did all those original show posters for him when he was doing the Groundlings version of Pee Wee's play. What was it called? It was called the Pee Wee Show. The Pee Wee Herman Show. If you look at all that art, that's Gary. Gary's does that. It was called the Raggedy Line style. And he and Wayne White, another terrific artist, and Rick Heitzman, those three were the art directors who did all the designed all the characters, all the puppets.
So Matt was able to be like, hey, check out my brother-in-law
He's
stuff.
like, yeah, Matt probably put in a good word. I knew two people. I found two names. Prudence Fenton, who was the producer, and the one who gave me the call and said, do you want to come work on the penny cartoons? I dropped everything and moved to LA immediately. So Prudence, I have to give her the nod because she's the one who actually said, yeah, let's hire this guy. I'd sent a tape of my my claymation that I had done, which included like the Domino's Noid.
Yeah.
And they were like, he can do it. You know, they could see that I could do claymation.
I would 100% hire the guy that did the Domino's Noid. 100%.
But you know that was it was at that moment that I came down in '87, and then in '88 I was doing the third season, and I moved for good.
Yeah.
I said, let's just like move to LA.
And you were married at the time, obviously.
Yeah. And you know, I quit at Vinton's, and they kind of couldn't understand it. That was kind of funny. The Vinton crew was like, "What are you doing? We going to L.A.? Oh my God, they'll kill you and eat you." They were hilariously. I got to say, the Northwest is very prejudiced against Southern California.
I bet.
It's like, you know, and New Yorkers are like that too. It's like it's the other coast. It's like it's got to be a mess.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm here to say, as somebody who's now been here for almost 40 years,
It worked out.
It worked out. And everything I wanted to happen happened because I had taken this chance and gone to LA.
At that point, did you have any children?
No, right away though. Like Matthias was born in '89.
Yeah. Oh,
Katie was born in '92. So yeah, he was perfect age to see Hey Arnold too.
Yeah.
It was like I made it for him. But you know, I was making it for the 9-year-old, you know, the fourth grader.
Totally.
But so to get back to like when I decided to kind of really form Sneeush and be a company and make a show,
Yeah.
it was because the end of season 3, I'd come down and done a little bit of work. I'd made we just made a few penny cartoons. It was a short season.
Yeah.
As soon as I was done, I was unemployed. I'd moved to LA. I had an apartment in Los Feliz.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, what am I going to do? I remember realizing I was just cut loose and I was walking around like, I got to make the rent.
Yeah.
I got to do something. So I created the first claymation Arnold short.
Yep.
Arnold Escapes from Church.
Uh-huh.
That's 88. And it was in the summer of 88. And it was because I had immediately run out of stuff to do and I had to do something. So I thought, I'll create my own character based on my childhood, very loosely.
Yeah,
as we were saying, deeply exaggerating on the experience of being a kid. And I'll make my own short, and then that'll be something I can show people, and then maybe I can get a job. And that sounds now kind of far out. Like, really, you're going to make a short and then you'll get a job? But it did. It really happened. I showed the short to people, and they'd say, "Yeah, why don't we?" I showed the short to Terry Thorin, who at that point he controlled the tournée of animation, the thing I was telling you about, the thing I'd seen when I was an art student.
Yeah.
And he's like, "We'll put Arnold Escapes from Church in the next tournée," and I was like, "Wow, full circle! Look at that."
Where I used to go watch the shorts and get inspired. Yeah.
And then I showed the short to Klasky and Chupo.
I was getting to that.
And they're like, "Yeah, you got what it takes."
How'd you get on their radar to show it to them?
Isn't that the best? Paul Germain who was Gabor and Arlene are the 3 creators of Rugrats.
Totally, yeah.
He had just started to work for them. They'd hired him to develop stuff for them. And the first thing they did was pitch Rugrats, which I think they all came up with together.
Sure, yeah.
And I knew Paul because he had produced those Tracy Ullman Simpson shorts.
Amazing.
He was a low level producer on Gracie Films, you know, Jim Brooks's company.
Yeah.
On the Fox lot, and they picked a rabbit out of the hat. They had Matt Groening come in and do those Simpson shorts.
Yeah.
Which are really funny when you see them now. They're crazy looking.
Yeah.
And with that little group of people, they made those shorts, and then Paul left Jim Brooks's company and went over to Klasky and Chupo because they'd had a good experience making those shorts, and they picked him and said, "Will you do development for us?" So he had met me when I was at something with Matt.
Yeah.
He'd seen my reel probably, and so Paul suggested to Klasky and Chupo that I come and be the story editor of Rugrats, which is really far out. That's crazy. I didn't do any screenwriting. I hadn't written any scripts.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask. Like, what was it about you, do you think, that told Paul that you could do that job?
They liked my weird animation and my weird comics. It was very indie. You know, if you think about Arnold Escapes from Church, that's pretty kooky looking.
And at that time, had you were the Arnold comics out in the Simpsons?
In Simpsons Illustrated.
Yeah, so you had those to show as well. Like, yeah.
Like maybe. God, that's a good question. That might have come a little bit later, but I probably showed them my comics too.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
I had done a lot of comics when I was in my Evergreen days too.
Yeah.
And they took that crazy leap. But I think that was the spirit. In 1990,
Sure.
Klasky and Chupo were doing some pretty weird stuff, and The Simpsons was their giant, hit.
Yeah.
But they had come from a much more of a weirdo place, and
Yeah.
the studio was full of other Eastern Europeans like Gabor.
Yeah,
he had
yeah,
friends
yeah.
that he brought over from Hungary, and they were nuts. And the place had a vibe like everyone here is a kind of a weirdo. And I remember Rugrats' first season really had that weirdo vibe.
Yeah.
Where none of us were experienced animators.
Right.
There was one guy, Chuck Swenson, who was an old vet that Gabor brought in, and he really wanted Chuck to at least teach us some basics about animation.
Because he knew the ropes. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, you guys, you got to do it this way. But we were all weirdos, and we were all learning how to do it live on the spot. I learned how to write screenplays like in real time because I had to write the show.
Was Rugrats board driven or script driven?
Script.
Oh, really?
Paul came from Gracie Films, and they were like, and so is Simpsons.
Yeah.
It was like, no, this is writers who write this show.
Yeah.
And you write it, and then you then hand it out. You record it.
Yeah.
Write it, record it, then hand it out to the storyboard department.
Yeah.
And then they can punch it up, but they can't get too far off. They can't get out of their lane.
Yeah.
And at the early days of Nickelodeon, the storyboard artists were really chafing at that because there was also the storyboard-driven shows like Ren and Stimpy and
Sure.
Rocco.
Yeah.
And the Rocco guys, we got a lot of Rocco vets to come work on Hey Arnold because we literally took over that space. Like,
Yeah.
Rocco shut down, and Arnold just took all those offices.
Dan Povenmire worked with
Dan
you guys.
Povenmire, Derek Dryman, Rob Porter.
Yeah.
Really great artists, great storytellers, with terrific careers since then.
Yeah.
But boy, did they chafe on season 1 of Hey Arnold because they didn't want the writers bossing them around, and the writers, it was a struggle.
Yeah.
I love thinking about season 1 because turns out it's great. It's not like it's a bad season. It's really cool. It's the reason why Arnold is what it is. But boy, did we fight, man.
I bet.
We fought like cats and dogs.
So meaning that you'd have a storyboard artist come back and want it with
Yeah.
suggestions, and you
They'd
guys would
say-
have to be...
They'd say, this is way too many words. Cut this down. This could be half as long, so I'd have more time to make up stuff in storyboard. And we'd say, no, we really want this to be a written show that's like, packed with funny jokes that aren't just like sight gags. And we were fighting against the formula, which was like Rocco or something would be like you have a simple premise, and then it's nothing but gags about that premise till the end of the episode. And we'd
Yes.
be like, no, we want to write a 3-act thing where a real story is told, and that was where the two things had to kind of meet and get along. And so my real strength is I'm kind of like I'm a good producer because I kind of a mediator between all these sort of
Different creative forces.
and I try to get everybody to kind of see one thing and get along. And
Yeah.
that was what I did all year or 2 years.
I mean, well, you had lightning in a bottle there, man. You really did. In creating the world of Hey Arnold, you drew inspiration from your hometown Seattle and where you went to school, Portland, but also Brooklyn, New York, which is where I said, I mean, I'm from Queens and later Long Island, but in New York, we were all convinced that it was New York.
Yeah.
Did you spend a whole lot of time in Brooklyn as well to get that inspiration before you created the show?
Yeah, I have relatives in Brooklyn. and
Okay,
they lived
yeah.
in Park Slope. And then my great friend from Siena, Kevin,
Yeah.
who I had known since we were 21. Kevin and his partner lived in Park Slope, not far from my relatives. You take the F train to 7th Avenue, 9th? Yeah, to 9th. And it was they're kind of on the corner of 7th and 9th.
Yeah.
And I hung out there a lot.
That's amazing. F Train was also mine, E and F. That's crazy, man.
And I've ridden the F train a million times. I've spent a lot of time in Manhattan, obviously, because Kevin worked at the Brooklyn Museum,
Yeah.
and so they're all my friends from that Siena program are all they all have art careers.
Yeah.
Lynn taught animation in a small university in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Mary is a scenic painter
Yeah.
in the Union and paints every day in Manhattan. Painted the set for Hamilton.
Wow. Wow.
And so we're all into art.
Yeah.
And we all go to museums. Our favorite thing is to go to museums. We went to a Hopper retrospective at the Whitney 2 years ago in the fall, and I was like heaven. And I'm with my friends. We're all doing the thing we love the most. And Hopper is one of the main influences on the backgrounds of Hey Arnold.
I can see that. I
Yeah.
could definitely see that.
And it can't be more New York than Hopper.
No, not at all. There's definitely a clear New York influence on a lot of the characters too. I mean, a lot of them even seem to have, legitimate New York accents.
Yeah, yeah.
Would you say that that's something that you picked up on just by interacting with people when you were there?
Yeah, the style of our storytelling is really influenced by, I can't say enough about this, how much animation gets to basically borrow from or rip off, depending on how you want to look at it, all the great movies, all the great TV shows. And there's something very New York-centric about early animation. The writers and the animators, probably most of them came from New York, even if they ended up at Warner's out here in Hollywood.
Sure.
They knew vaudeville.
Yeah.
And they knew this incredibly New York style humor, which is translated into Bugs Bunny and all the things I grew up on.
Yep.
And so as we did our storytelling, the jokes just fall back on tropes that were all invented in New York.
Yeah.
And that's why it has that vibe. Stoop Kid seems like a New York guy.
100, yeah.
Pigeon Man is clearly a New York guy.
Yep.
The actor who did him, Vincent Schiavelli, he's a New York guy. He's a character actor from New York City.
Are you a fan of the John Wick franchise?
Oh no, I don't know. Oh, I know what that is, but I don't really. I haven't really seen it.
Are you an action movie guy?
Not really.
Okay. Even if not, I recommend them. I would laud them as like probably I think they're the best action movies of all time. Just the martial arts choreography, the way Chad Stahelski makes movies is incredible. The reason I bring it up is, have you heard of the pigeon character in John Wick?
No.
I'm not going to say too much. It's a pretty broad universe of characters in New York's underworld. And John Wick, Keanu Reeves' character, is moving through the underworld and interacting with different people that run different parts of town and have different lanes and whatever. But one of his allies is a guy that's... it's Pigeon Man, basically, which is really cool.
I gotta see this.
Yeah, and when I saw it in the theater, I was thinking to myself, I was looking around like, is anybody else thinking what I'm thinking?
What year did it get made? That Pigeon Man, where did that get introduced?
2014, and it's Lawrence Fishburne.
Wow! Oh my God, how fun!
Yeah, so which is really, really cool. So I've always wondered,
is there a connection?
Is there a connection to Chad Stahelski? Like, get inspired by it?
It's so great. I love
know.
that when you know that your thing actually came first,
right?
And you go, did they see what I did?
Right. Yeah.
It's super flattering, actually. I don't mind. Somebody giving a nod to
totally
having seen something I did.
Yeah. Well, Chad, if you're listening, drop a comment and let us know if you were.
I promise I'll see the Wick franchise.
There we go. There we go. Rugrats era is coming to a close for you. You team up with 5 writers from Rugrats, and you've told the story many times of that infamous pitch when you go in and it's going comedically terribly.
Yeah.
Until, of course, they're like, all right, well, you can bust out your
we're out of ideas.
Out of ideas. One question that I had that I thought was a crazy coincidence. You mentioned Paul Germain. Him and Joe went on to co-create Recess.
Right.
Pretty shortly after that.
Pretty shortly after Arnold.
Do you think there's a coincidence about the focus on the 4th grade? Like, were you guys discussing why that was the best, story-wise, that was the best group of kids to focus on?
I don't know. When I found, Joe had worked on season 1 of Arnold, and then he quit to go off with Paul. His previous, they were basically reconnecting. From their work on Rugrats.
Yeah.
So it was like I got to go. I think what Joe wanted to be a show creator like Paul and me.
Yeah.
And he's like, the only way I'm going to do that is if I go off and leave Arnold and create something with Paul. So I was a little shocked when I got wind of what Recess was going to be. I was like, what? They're 4th graders too? I was
yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute, that's my territory. But I think that's really true, that Joe and Salabeher had a lot to do with the development of Arnold. And we, he and Steve Vixton and I, would talk about that sort of, what's the perfect kind of center of elementary school? A fourth grader is neither, the kings were the sixth graders.
Yeah.
They could boss everybody around, and they're wised up. They're not, little children like first graders.
Yeah.
They're right in the middle. And so I think that's probably what Paul and Joe were thinking as well.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it is so interesting. I remember as a kid thinking that as well, like that. Wow, what are the odds that both of these shows, at that time, as a kid, you don't know anything about the development of a show or even who's making it or anything like that. You're just watching the show.
Yeah, it's really cool. As a kid, you all you had was what you could see. You could see that, you could read who created it and look at the credits. But it's not your average grade schooler who even cares about that stuff. I'm always surprised when they say, "Oh, I had no idea that you did." I love Hey Arnold. I love Dinosaur Train. I have no idea you did Dinosaur Train. I'm like, it says
it's right there. Yeah. You pitch Hey Arnold. It's a slam dunk. You make the pilot, and now when we fast forward to that process, the pilot airing for the first time in front of Harriet the Spy.
Cool,
is
huh?
very cool. I can picture myself there with my mom, who took me to the theater to see Harriet, and seeing it and being like, oh, sweet, a new Nicktoon. And at that time, I don't remember if they said that like, this is a full series coming, or if they just showed the short.
No, they just showed it.
They just showed it, right?
I don't think it even had any kind of like a framing up front, like, and now
I don't
a new
think so.
Nicktoon.
Yeah.
I just think it suddenly there it was.
Was that just a decision from the Nickelodeon marketing team of like, let's just see if people like it, or?
Yep, the show was already in production.
Yeah,
we'd made the pilot, and another year had gone by. We made the pilot in '94, and then in the beginning of '95, we started production, and we made season 1 over the next like year and a half. So into probably 96. Yeah, it must have been like summer of 96. So we'd been at it for a year and a half. Harriet the Spy was their first Nickelodeon movie, the first Nick movie. And so it was very important to them. It was like their flagship. We're putting this thing out. And somebody got the bright idea to put our pilot up. And they came to us and said, hey, can we use your pilot and put it on the front of Harriet? Well, of course I said yes.
Yeah.
The thought that it would be on the big screen just was a thrill.
Yeah.
And they said, we were thinking of your pilot. You want to put one of your episodes that you've already made in there? And we seriously thought about it for a second. And Tuck was interested in Haunted Train. He thought that might be the best thing to put up front.
Oh, yeah.
And then I remember we screened it. Everything was on film at that point. We literally went down and project to a lab in Burbank and projected the pilot and Haunted Train. And I remember we were like, Haunted Train's kind of funky. It's not. Some of the shots are not that perfect. I feel like the pilot is a little bit more, has a little bit more kind of visual unity.
Sure.
And we were really struggling in season 1. We were always giving the overseas studio kind of more work than they could do.
Yeah.
And those guys killed themselves trying to make season 1 for us, because it's all over the place. It's got every cartoon's got a whole bunch of new assets, and you're in a new, Haunted Train is all new locations.
Yeah, that's true.
And so sometimes we'd see stuff and it looked pretty raggedy to us. And it's funny. It's really wonderful and satisfying to be 30 years later and having people think that these things are perfect.
I do, yeah.
And they look at it and they're like, it's a fucking masterpiece. There's nothing wrong with this. And I'm like, oh boy, this thing's lumpy as hell. And it's just because we'd put out a storyboard and then you'd see.
And you had a vision, of course, as a creator. Yeah.
And Tuck, I can't say enough about Tuck Tucker. He drew Haunted Train. I just did a post about it because Haunted Train, I was looking at that shot where you're looking down the tunnels where Engine 25 is about to come. And I'm looking at that painting going, that's just the layout guys just could take Tuck's storyboard, Xerox it, blow it up, and it's done. So he would do the work for the layout guys, the background layout guys, because he that's the kind of artist he was.
That attention to detail.
And his storyboards were gorgeous. They were just gorgeous. And so you'd see a shot come back and it was kind of not as gorgeous, and you'd be like, oh, and the kids who watched the show had no idea what our aspirations were and versus what they were seeing.
Totally.
and also, you know, it does sort of stand the test of time. Now I look at Haunted Train, I'm like, you know what, it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. I mean, so that episode that ended up being the one that aired before Harriet, I have two like nitty gritty questions about it, and maybe the answer is just that the narrative wasn't as thought out yet. But one thing I'm curious about is that, not unlike Helga, throughout the episode, she's the main tormentor of Arnold, right?
Right.
Doing the countdown to when he dies.
Right.
My question is though, when it actually came down to the fight, and him and Harold were about to go at it. And let's say Arnold did not come up with his scheme of being crazy, right?
He was going to get
He's
pounded.
He's going to get his ass kicked. Was Helga going to let that go through for the sake of maintaining the facade, or would she have come up with some scheme to step in and stop the fight, obviously due to her love for Arnold?
Yeah, she's really a hot mess in that one. She's really a mess. She's
Yeah.
like, wait, don't touch him. And then she immediately has to, they're all like, ooh. So there's a tension already.
Yeah.
The kids are kind of onto her all through childhood. So she must be maintaining this really, you know, fairly schizophrenic, like, I hate him, I got to torment him. And
Yeah.
then she's constantly trying to push down the urge to defend him and love him publicly.
Yeah.
So she's really a mess in that one. And you're right. It's very proto everyone. It's proto Helga, it's proto Arnold, proto Harold.
Yeah.
You don't know where these characters are going to go yet because we didn't either.
Right.
We knew. I mean, I was like, the unrequited love theme.
Yeah.
That Helga loves Arnold but can't tell him, and the whole idea of I love him but I hate him.
Yeah.
Or I hate him but I love him.
Yeah.
That's really what was kind of driving everything.
Yeah.
Even then. But she's pretty psycho in that one.
It's amazing to see. And then when you watch later, you realize that, like, if Helga wants to, she can control Harold.
Yeah.
She could, right? Because Harold is scared of her when she gets aggro.
Yeah, she actually could kick his ass.
She actually could kick his ass. I mean, Helga. It turns out that in their grade, at least, Helga's the toughest person. Right?
Yeah,
like
she really does rule the fourth grade.
She does, and easily too. You know, whatever. Obviously, when she gets into it with the older kids, like, you know, Big Patty and stuff, then there's an element of dominance. But in general, I don't even think Helga would be scared of Big Gino.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah. At the very end of it, when Harold goes, "You really are crazy. You want to join our club?" When you wrote that line, when he says you want to join our club, what is that really in reference to?
It's a great question, because I remember I was like, I've got 7 minutes to tell this whole story. What am I going to do? And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if he went from zero to hero?
Yeah.
Just by this bizarre performance,
This act,
which is,
yeah.
and he's kind of messing with all of them. I think he kind of like, you know, like he's goosing all of them.
Yeah.
Dancing around. And I thought just the audacity of that, because that reminded me so much of childhood. Like there's a bully. Always bullies who were like, you know, they're haunting the schoolyard. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, if I go out at recess, I'm going to have to face down this bully.
Steal my lunch money or taunt me.
Just
Yeah.
all that stuff. And I thought I had the experience of kind of like just doing like something crazy, and that you should never hit a crazy person is what Arnold tells him. That's really, I don't know where I picked up that little bit of lore, but that's something I learned as a child, you know. Well, I'm crazy and you should never hit a crazy person.
Did you say that to somebody?
I probably did.
Amazing.
And the how wouldn't it be funny if by the time he's done with his really eccentric performance, Harold's like, wow, you know, you want to join our club?
Yeah.
And it was kind of, it felt kind of real. It felt like the kind of thing that could happen.
Yeah.
I did a couple things in high school where the bullies, like I remember me and a girl in a English class, we did a reading of like, it was like a 1-act play that we just performed for the teacher just picked us and said, you and Laura Lee, read these, you know, at like lunch, we'll have all the English classes come together and you guys read these things. And I remember reading this thing, and a guy who kind of seemed to hate me and was a bully afterwards, like on the bus, was like, hey dude, you know, like, and I remember going like, wow, just by performing,
Yeah.
I'm now cool with this guy.
Sure.
It almost doesn't make sense.
That's so real, though. I've had many a similar experience. I think it's common with boys of a certain age too. Is like you can totally be like mortal enemies one day, and then something easy will reverse that.
And you go, oh, so now just by discovering that I have some quality that you didn't know I had,
right.
now I'm cool. And then there's something vulnerable about that too. Now Harold has actually been, you want to join my club? I mean, it's like now Harold is like revealing that I'll let you in if you want to be my friend.
Yeah.
Which is kind of that's the kind of stuff that the kind of kid dynamics that I was trying to put in the show.
Is the club just like
I don't even know what it is.
Just him, Stinky? Because I was thinking
him, Stinky, Sid, Joey.
Right. I was thinking to myself like, well, these kids have known each other since they were in preschool. Like, what is the club?
Pretty interesting.
Yeah,
the whole kind of cartoon thing where in preschool they're all there.
Yeah,
and in the journal, remember they're all like outside on swings when they're babies.
Yes,
I'm like, okay,
yeah,
that's the kind of stuff you can do in a cartoon.
They're all in the neighborhood too, so it is pretty accurate. You know what I mean? Is it true that a dispute over the second Hey Arnold movie was what resulted in you leaving Nick? And there's also a rumor floating around there that simultaneously, I don't know if this was a second contract or part of that one, that you were being asked to sign an exclusive Nickelodeon contract that you didn't want to sign. Is there any truth to any of that?
Well, exclusivity was more just kind of like how we took care of each other. I don't know if I think when I started to talk to Cartoon Network, I was going to go over to Cartoon Network, and the reason I did was because at that point I could already tell that Arnold was kind of done.
Okay.
And so
you were just getting the vibe.
I was just getting the vibe, and I don't think I was theirs exclusively, but once they knew that I was going to go over to Cartoon Network, then I'm sure they felt like, oh, there was the competition between Nick and Cartoon Network then was really fierce.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I can remember them saying like, some other company's eating our lunch. That was the expression they used. And I'm sure they felt like that would lead to more lunch eating.
Sure.
And so they were not happy about it. But I was like, hey, you guys, you're clearly done with me. The feeling that kind of shocked me when Arnold kind of ran down. It ran down because, and the Jungle movie, it wasn't so much we couldn't agree on it. They just weren't, we were developing it, but it was kind of stuck, and we weren't getting it into production. They weren't really satisfied with what the Jungle movie was.
Yeah.
Then I said, well, we've finished this, our TV movie, Arnold Saves the Neighborhood, which we called it then.
Yeah.
And which then became Hey Arnold the movie. And I said, what about this one? And I literally screened the finished Arnold Saves the Neighborhood to my bosses, and they were like, yeah, that's like piece of cake. Let's just do a film finish on this and put this out. And then we have our Arnold movie, and then you can keep developing the Jungle movie. The Arnold movie came out, didn't do well. It actually was badly reviewed because they could tell it was a TV movie that had been kind of plumped up to a feature.
Yeah.
And this is when you think about what else was going on. The Pixar movies and the Disney movies were already hitting.
Sure.
The thing that was killing right that summer was Lilo and Stitch. And you think
you
think about the production quality of Lilo and Stitch. That's a movie that they spend years in a story department. It's like it gets the full movie feature treatment.
It's a movie, yeah.
Yeah, and we were just making a TV movie that was just 3.5 hours pitched, plugged, stitched together.
Yeah.
So we knew it wasn't really, it wasn't a fair fight, but it got clobbered. They put it out in June.
Yeah.
It got clobbered.
Rough time.
And then when it got clobbered, they're like, this thing only made $13 million, and basically Hey Arnold is done. And so I'm like, well, what about the Jungle? Nothing. We didn't do no more Arnold. And so I knew that, and I went over to Cartoon Network because my time was done.
Were you still, when that conversation happened, were you still producing the final season, the final episodes?
No, I think the way the sequence went was the season 5.
Yeah.
The last 3.5 hours of season 5 were the Arnold Saves the Neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so really that I probably was in post for sure. Okay. I stayed in post probably for another 6 months, which was really awkward.
Yeah.
I was kind of done with them. I think they even moved me out of my office. It was just
wow.
Like I was putting it through post even and delivering the last shows when I didn't even have a place to sit at Nickelodeon. And that was because I was kind of being punished for.
I mean, chronologically, because obviously that movie takes place sort of like before April Fool's Day and the
Yeah,
Journal, right?
yeah.
The Journal is the real like series finale, if there is.
The true series finale.
Yeah.
And it's still a very awkward series finale because I made that cliffhanger ending.
to go into the jungle
to
movie.
challenge Paramount to say no. Like, how can you say no? You found a map, man. And they were just like,
Right.
well, you know, we're already done with you. So there was some real awkwardness about those final. And yeah, chronologically and kind of the canon in the kind of time, it's like she's already told Arnold that she loves him when they do April Fool.
Yes, and it comes back to status quo a bit, obviously, because
Yeah.
which is a good thing narratively because
Yeah.
it develops so nicely.
Yeah, that's we would always try to do it that way. Like I found this out from you, but we don't have time. I don't have time to give you an answer. We got to go save the neighborhood. And
Yeah.
and then he's like, that was weird.
Yeah.
Do you want to just like pretend it never happened? And that's just Arnold not able to handle
To
it.
process, yeah.
Yeah, he's a boy. He can't. He
Yeah,
can't even.
I mean, at that moment too, he's probably thinking back to Grandpa's stories about him and Grandma, right? He's like, okay, that's what Grandpa was talking about. This girl
Yeah.
used to harass the shit out of him.
and I guess he figures he's just going to have to think about it for a while.
yeah.
I always say when Helga runs off, she dances off at the end of the first movie.
Yes.
She's going to dance off for like 30 more seconds and then stop and go, what the hell? I don't know how he feels about me. You know, and I had to pretend I didn't love him. Oh my God. You know, so it's like Helga should be pretty mad. You know?
Yes, totally.
She's mad that Arnold can't handle it.
And he didn't reciprocate immediately. And yeah, of course.
And so the Jungle movie, when I pitched the Jungle movie 14 years later,
Yeah.
the new version when it was reboot time and come back to Nickelodeon time, I said there's 3 things we got to do. What's his last name?
Yep.
What happened to his parents? And how does he feel about Helga?
And Susie divorces Mr. Kakashka. she finally has enough self-confidence to leave Michigan. So when that conversation happened, do you recall, you're in a room with one exec, with multiple, and, they're presenting like, hey man, Arnold's not gonna, we're done here. Were you just kind of like, okay, or did you put forth any like, come on man, are you serious? That was a bad time to release a movie. You can't judge it off of that.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like there was always a kind of a disconnect because those guys were all in New York.
Oh, right.
And although Paramount is in Hollywood,
Yeah.
I got a call on Sunday night from Sherry Lansing, who was the president, and so she called me up at home and said, "Well, sorry, we did our best, but it was the weekend. We lost the weekend, and so it was kind of that thanks for playing call.
Yes.
Didn't say it in so many words, but I was like, wow, it looks like we could be done. And then the same thing happened with I didn't see the New York execs for a long time, and we screened the Hey Arnold the movie at the Tribeca Festival in spring. So it was like at that point, that was before it came out. We screened it in spring, and then in summer it played. And when I was at that screening, I had a conversation with one of the execs who said, so what's next? I literally, like, what else do you have to pitch to us?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I said, well, more Arnold, of course. And the look on his face was like, like, God damn, will you never let up about this Arnold thing? And then so I got to admit, I was pretty Arnold obsessed. And I still kind of am.
Rightfully so, man. So I assume, of course, like Nickelodeon owns full IP for Arnold. I mean, I know Jim Jenkins. Are
Yeah.
you familiar with the Doug situation?
I haven't talked to him about. I really only spoke to Jim once. We were both on a
podcast. Yeah,
You
I
saw
listened
that?
to, of course. Yeah,
And it was really fun to finally connect with him. He's a great guy.
One of the coolest things, and I think it was just I asked him this question of how he got this deal because it was so uncommon, but he was saying it was just a function of it being so Nickelodeon being so new at this, because
Yeah.
Doug was one of the OG Nicktoons.
Yeah.
But he had a clause in there that if they didn't make his full 60 episode commitment, and I think they stopped at 52 if I remember, that he would revert.
Wow.
And he got Doug back when they canceled it, and that's how he got to sell it to Disney.
Unbelievable. Huge payday too.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Good for him.
Every time I hear about an animator or an artist of any kind who really has a big payday, I'm like, good on you, man. You beat the system.
Right.
It's not that easy to do, as we well know. It's like, I was paid well. I had a blast. I had every opportunity. I had so much fun, but I didn't make SpongeBob money or Simpsons money, because that only happens, it's like a needle in a haystack.
Of course.
And so, I'm hardly in a position to complain. But
Right.
I still, whenever I hear about somebody like Jim selling jumbo pictures to Disney,
Yeah.
I'm like, right on, bro.
Yeah.
Good for you.
There's a lot at this point floating around the internet. In 2018 or 19, I think Jim Lang mentioned that you guys were talking to Netflix, Amazon, Apple. You've said a couple of years ago that you may or may not be working on a reboot. What is the most recent conversation you've had with someone that could greenlight this? And have you explored any actual stories that you would tell?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because they always, my agent and I will look at what's out there and what people are looking for, or hear what there'll be a new regime of development people at Nick, and now we're doing family co-viewing features, or they always would have some new idea. I'd be like, okay, I got one. I'm like, oh, you want them as teenagers? Fine. Or I've actually not pitched to them, but I asked them, hey, you're talking about making movies? I would love to do a kind of a Gerald centric.
I've heard about that. Yeah,
feature. And I've got an idea for it, which may turn out to be a graphic novel.
Let's go.
If I can't make TV with Nick or movies with Nick with the Arnold franchise, then that may be the option that I have. So I'm talking to a publisher in New York about the possibility of doing graphic novels. So that would be one of the first things I would do. Would be like a urban legend, Gerald centric, the gang.
I'm already sold. I'm sold. Yeah.
And I really look forward to that. As we know, graphic novels are a great way to develop IP. If you can say, hey, look, we've 100,000 copies of this were sold. This is a great comic. Then you've got your movie kind of written.
The pitch is done. Yeah.
And they're more likely to make the movie because they know there's an audience for it.
Totally.
But I would just say, like, in the last 10 years, since like the Jungle movie was now 2017, that's 9 years ago, man.
Wild.
In that time, the administration has changed more than once. At that moment, Russell Hicks was the guy that was in charge, and he was a fan. He loved Hey Arnold, and he remembered me fondly from the days when he was working in the New York office. And when I found out that he got the job, that's how the Jungle movie happened. Was I found out Russell was now the boss. I emailed him that day. The day Joe Purdy told me, hey, guess who's running animation now?
Yeah.
So I emailed him that day. He's like, dude, get in here. What's going on? Where have you been, man? Let's get the band back together. He literally said that.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, this is the meeting you dream of.
Yeah.
And then, out of that, we developed some stuff which didn't come to pass, but we also made the Jungle movie.
Yeah.
But then he was gone. They fired him. Someone else took his place.
Yep.
And later it was Ramsey Naito who was running it for a long time. One day, a couple years ago, Ramsey called me up just out of the blue. Hi, it's Ramsey. Would you be interested in doing developing with Trevor Noah? Do you like Trevor Noah? I'm like, yeah, I love Trevor Noah. What does he want?
That.
And it was
a Gerald story, right?
What if we did like a live action Hey Arnold and did it with Trevor Noah's people? I said, sounds like a blast. Nothing came of it. He had a lot on his plate. He had kind of weird ups and downs that year. He ended up leaving the Daily Show, and
right.
I don't know where it's at with him now, but for whatever reason, nothing came of it. And at this point, those people are fired.
Yeah.
Nickelodeon, I don't even know what's going to happen next. I always think, maybe the next person who comes is going to be a fan of Hey Arnold, and we'll start all over again.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I have, that was probably that question. Do you want to develop Arnold as a live action thing? That was probably the last invitation to develop with those guys that I've had.
So the last official conversation.
And so I just go, keep your expectations as low as possible.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll luck out. Someone will come along and be like, you know what, I really love Hey Arnold. And then we're back back to the races.
In this day and age, it's never done.
It is never done.
Yeah.
It's really cool that it lives, right?
Yeah.
It's on. I'm personally trying to grow a fan base by doing my social media stuff.
You do so good at that. I've heard in many an interview that Oscar was a self-portrait of Steve, who also voiced Oscar.
Yeah.
In what ways? Because Steve never struck me as like a lazy, that type. So, but like, what are the characteristics that were self-portrait?
Steve what a brilliant mind, but he was a deeply troubled guy who who he was a dark, he had a dark interior.
Yeah.
And he didn't show it to anybody. He's also super private. So how that could translate into Oscar does seem like a kind of a strange thing. But, Steve loved to go to the track.
Oh, so he did have a little gambling streak going on.
He loved to bet on the horses.
Yeah.
He kind of liked that whole underworld.
Okay.
And so I think Oscar was kind of aspirational. Like if Steve could, he would never work another day in his life. He was
he
like,
could be like Oscar.
I want to be like Oscar. Also, we loved the Gabor Chupo's accent.
Oh my God! So that was that a heavy inspiration?
That was basically the inspiration. We loved Klasky and Chupo as we'd all worked for them on Rugrats, and now we were over at a new place making Arnold.
Yeah,
and we were kind of like Klasky and Chupo were such a funny couple, and so we were like, what if we just have a character that talks like Gabor, and Susie can be, even though neither one of them resembles. Arlene's not like Susie, and Oscar isn't like. Gabor isn't like Oscar.
Sure,
but the accent was what all of us did. Gabor was one of those people that if you quoted him, you can't help but. It's like if you quote John Kay, you can't help but be. John Kay's always like,
Yeah.
And Gabor was like, oh, I don't know,
kitty.
I don't really want to produce this one. It's not funny yet. And so the accent of his Hungarian accent was everything kind of goes down at the end.
So good.
Susie, make me a sandwich.
Do you want to pet the kitty? Yes, I would like to pet the kitty.
And Steve, what can I say? I think Steve, I gave him the perfect situation for him to just be Steve.
Yeah.
He was completely protected in my little organization. He could just spend the whole day by himself if he wanted to. He didn't ever have to talk to the producers or the execs. He'd say, you go tell him that this has to be.
Yeah.
And he knew I could do it, and he didn't want to do it. So I basically allowed him to be Steve, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
And out of Steve came some of the best Arnold episodes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think about Steve's, and they're funny. He wrote Arnold's Christmas, for crying out loud.
Perhaps the shining gem that everlasts.
It's really cool to think about that because, like I said, that was the last one of season 1, and we were all, it was a brawl. We were just fighting about everything, and it was just because I look back on it, I'm like, everybody wanted it to be great.
Yeah,
that was what was the motive for all the fighting. The board artists were like, it would be better if we did it this way, and the writers were like, no, it's got to be written. And Jamie Mitchell, who was supervising director and who directed Arnold's Christmas, he'd be like, guys, this isn't good enough yet. I need a new scene. You guys go back and write me a new scene. And Steve would be like, well, you do it to me. And I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
And we, even the fight to get it made, they didn't want to make a Vietnam story.
It's very not Nickelodeon vibe. Right?
Yeah, it's like you've really gone somewhere else.
Yeah.
Which is the best thing. It's the thing I loved about the 90s Nicktoons. It was such a Wild West that... you had all these existing shows, and then here's our thing, and we were just like, how can it be different from all the rest of them?
Yeah,
let's make it really emotional, or deeply sad, or kind of upsetting in some way. Whereas like Ren and Stimpy could be disturbing, but it was another kind of upsetting and disturbing.
It was just wacky and
ours would be like emotion based,
grounded and real,
and reality too.
Yeah. Speaking of the Christmas special. After I made the video, which you saw talking about Mr. Bailey and how much I despise him, I got so much pushback of people defending
Bailey?
Mr. Bailey. Some people were like, listen, man, those kids made a deal. Welcome to the real world, jackass. A deal is a deal. And I was like...
Oh, it's so great.
I know. So I was going back and forth with people on the internet because... I'm like, you know what? I'm happy to debate Hey Arnold on the internet, as opposed to something dark, But it was so interesting to see, like, wow, the different people's perspectives on it. Because I was like, I think his actions are indefensible. Because in his position, I would say, wow, I'm so touched by these kids' generosity that I have to be a part of this.
And Helga comes and makes that great speech.
Oh my God, yeah! It's
like, listen, it's not about this, it's not about that, it's about a little boy.
Yeah, Helga is the most selfless character on the whole show, man.
Yeah, she's great.
In addition to that, I mean, there's so many amazing Helga moments that show who she truly is. But in addition to that, which is perhaps the biggest one, because it's a purely selfless act, because she'll maybe when they get married years later she could tell him, right?
Yeah.
But at that point in time, she's sacrificing something that she wants so badly and no one will ever know.
I bet she made a deal with Mai. Like, you can go in there and tell him that somehow she got someone reached out to her and she got the information, but you can't say I did it.
Don't spill. Yeah, totally.
Because that's the thing I love. And it's actually something that really is a through line with these kids is that she's got rules.
Yeah.
And she really, her secrets are like her superpower.
Quite possibly one of my favorite Helga secrets and moments is when she saved Olga from getting engaged to that bum.
Right.
And she could have used that to reveal the truth to Olga and really break her heart and all that stuff. And that would have been not the wrong thing to do because it was true. Right. The guy was the guy. But maintaining her sister's trust in love and her faith in love and not wanting to break her heart in that way was so important to her that she made him leave on her own and concocted a story and stuck to it. And even though when she's crying, Helga's like, yo, that's enough, like, cry baby. You're like, wow, but you're you love her so much, even though Olga is intentionally or unintentionally part of the reason that your home life is so terrible.
Yeah.
Right?
She could just hate her. Yeah. And she's got real levels, man. She's really cool. She's an onion.
I think I would venture to say that Helga is the most complex character ever written in animation.
Wow.
I think so.
High praise.
You look at Helga on the couch to see her origins, which obviously, for you guys is something that you retro.
It's a retrofit.
Retcon. Yeah, but it makes everything make sense in such a
so cool. That's the opportunity. That was season 4.
Yeah,
the opportunity to go. I think everybody likes Helga. She's really shown her true colors, and everybody knows she's kind of a mess, but she's really a fun character. People probably love her. What if I gave you like all her backstory, which I'm sure is some kind of trope, like find a late series backstory show where you find out like it's like a villain origin story.
Yeah.
But I thought this will be great. By the time you've seen Helga on the couch, nobody's gonna not love Helga.
Right.
She's really, you see her little walk that she takes when I'm going to police school and shuts the door.
Yeah.
And then you get there and she meets Arnold and it's like, oh God, the first guy who's ever been kind to her.
Yes.
So all that stuff was super fun to write.
Yeah.
My goal is I want everybody to love Helga. Because I loved Helga. I spent all that time with this character, and with Franny, the kid who played her was a genius. Is a genius.
Yes, absolutely.
Francesca's take was so good. From the minute we brought her in there and auditioned her for the pilot, we were like, oh God, this is like, it's like we've got this dynamite. We've got this amazing kid who you could write anything for, and she'll crush it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't say that all the kids, we had a great cast. Those kids were all really smart. But she was like genius level. And so that's why it's such a Helga-centric series, is because me, Steve, Joe, Antoinette wrote a bunch of great Helga stories. Michelle Lamro wrote a bunch of great Helga stories. We all just, I got to write for this kid. I can't wait for this actor to come in. I can remember when Steve and I were writing the I love you confession scene on the rooftop in the movie. I called her at home and said, let me read you this.
Yeah, yeah.
You're going to wait till you come in and knock this out. Because it was a really cool relationship we have with these actors, that you could write for them. You couldn't wait for them to come in and make this thing come to life.
Totally.
Dan Castellaneta, who plays Grandpa, I was like, oh my God, a whole Grandpa story. I can't wait to hear Dan crush this.
Yeah.
And so the actors bring that it's like, it's a throwdown. It's like you write me something really good. Wait till you see what I do with it.
Grandma is heavily based on your own grandmother.
Nanny, yeah.
Yeah.
Helen.
The relationship between Grandma and Arnold, did you have any similar sort of conversations with your grandma that you drew from for any of the specific moments? Maybe this did happen. Maybe your grandma taught you karate. Maybe or your grandma. The episode where Arnold doesn't complete the list and Grandma's sort of the source of things look up.
Yeah.
Were any of those real life inspirations?
None of it actually happened. All of it's made up. All of it's like, what if Like in a cartoon, I can go so much further. But kind of unspoken, yeah, we had a connection where, in spirit, that's the kind of stuff that she provided for me. She was like a real firecracker. She could kind of do anything, and she was really independent. My grandpa had died, so she had been a single mom with 2 kids to raise for a stretch, and before she remarried. And I always thought of her as somebody who was really a self-starter who could kind of do anything. And the creativity and the kind of sense of fun and that energy, that forever, like, come on, we're going, get in the car. That was all her. And then all that great magic stuff, like the piano on the roof, and like Sing With Me, Arnold, or what was the other example? I mean, obviously, like, kidnapping a turtle, or that's all wildly made up. So it's funny. It'd be funny to talk. She's long gone. It'd be really funny to talk to her about Grandma, and she might be like, what do you mean I'm based, it's based on me? She probably would not. Well, I don't know. I remember her at the end of her life. Everything I did was, she just thought I was, I hung the moon.
That's amazing, man.
That's that kind of thing you get by all you have to do is grow up and just become a decent person, and your grandparents are like, oh my God, you're so great.
Dude, that's like... If you could bring back just one thing from the 90s, what would it be?
Oh, wow. What a great question. Man, the opportunities of the 90s.
Wow.
Money was flowing.
Yeah.
When I came to Nickelodeon, they were starting. They had been a successful little cable company, but they put out those first Nicktoons and they blew up.
Yeah.
And then all through the 90s, like I met them in 1990 and I worked through the whole decade with them. And it was every year was always better than the last. The parties were unbelievable. The way food and drink flowed at their parties, and Nickelodeon would throw these giant, DJ'd, loud, insane party with lighting, and you're like, what the hell? You transformed the studio into like a disc. What is going on? And I can remember the talent that would come there, and always it'd be like, oh, Keenan and Kel have a movie, and we're all going to Paramount to be at their party, and it was like you just kind of couldn't believe the economy of that time. The economy was like a boom time economy, and our little Wild West studio was like, well, we took a chance with you on Hey Arnold, and season 1 is getting a lot of views, so congrats, here's season 2. And you went, man, they have the ability to pull the trigger on anything.
Yeah.
So after the 90s ended, and it kind of went into, by 2000 that the kind of the party was over, and there was like a hangover for a couple of years where we all were struggling and trying to figure out what we were going to do next. And so you realize these eras come and go.
Sure.
And I knew I was in it, and I knew I was doing cool stuff and having a great time. But looking back on it, I'm like, did you really enjoy it as much as you should? Because that was the bomb. That was the best stuff. And I don't know why it worked so well, but man, was my timing perfect.
The stars aligned.
I would wish that on anybody to have a 90s like I did.
Wow. When you were there, was that in the studio? I've seen it multiple times and freaked out every time I see it. Is that stoop they constructed, the Hey Arnold, did they do that during the show's?
No, that was in 2016 or so, 2015. It was when they built that big building that's on the corner.
Yeah.
On Olive and what is that, Lake? But that big 5-story building was brand new, and we moved into it even kind of late in our production of the Jungle movie.
Yeah.
And I got there, and that stoop was there, and I was like, what? And it was right in our production space. And so we used it for photo ops.
And they have Arnold's shrine, the Helga shrine.
All that stuff. That all got made during that brief Russell Hicks era.
I see.
Thanks to Russell. Shout out to Russell Hicks.
Shout out Russell, man. Craig, let me say, man, on behalf of all 90s kids, all millennials, and all Hey Arnold fans, thank you so much, not only for your time today, but for creating something that is so near and dear to our hearts. I mean, it is truly so influential to us, to the point where I know those of us that have children share it with our own children, and someday when I have my own, I look forward to sharing it with them. You really nailed your mark of wanting to depict childhood from a child's perspective, what it feels like to be a kid. The way that you captured emotions, I think, is unlike perhaps any other series that's been done. So thank you.
Wow, thank you. That's really high praise. I appreciate it, and it's great to have a living, growing fandom. That's the thing that makes continuing to be able to do this work possible. So thank you, and thanks to the fans too.
Before we began here, you had dropped a little gem to me. I wonder if you might drop it again for the audience.
Oh yeah, so you all love the music, and rightly so. Jim Lang and I have been friends now for more than 30 years. We were already friends when we started it, and we always stay in touch, and we were always like talking about what we could do with Hey Arnold. And Jim has made arrangements for a group which he calls Little Blue Hat, which is his kind of Arnold band, and we are practicing right now a small set of Arnold songs, which we plan to perform at a jazz club near you or far from you, depending on where you live. But we're hoping to play in Los Angeles.
Are you going to try to make it a national tour?
I don't have any idea. This is Jim's baby.
Okay.
All I'm doing is trying to, memorize my Dino Spumoni songs.
Yes. Oh my God.
Also on our playlist is The Simple Things, which I'm going to sing that too.
Beautiful. That's my mom's favorite song of all time.
Wow.
She loves it. I mean, Hey Arnold was one of the few shows that like the whole family stopped to watch. Everybody was very invested because of how relatable it was to everybody. But she loved Mr. Wynn in that episode specifically, and the lyrical content of Simple Things, but also that episode as a whole of him choosing the
really
simple
funny
things.
to see him become a country star.
Yeah. So that's awesome, man. Well, everybody then stay tuned. They're gonna love that show in New York too. So I hope that it can.
I hope it travels. I know Jim will record it and put it on YouTube, so you'll be able to watch it.
Yeah, let's go. And ladies and gentlemen, until next time, I'm all grown up.
SYKE.
Hey.
I'm all grown up.